Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into this totally fascinating philosophy that true character isn't actually found in living a life of total ease. Nope, it's actually forged through struggle and, believe it or not, voluntary discomfort. It's really all about making that shift from the superficial pursuit of comfort into the deep and, sometimes really uncomfortable work of personal evolution.
You know, there's this great quote that says, having stuff isn't fun, getting stuff is fun. Basically, it's not the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness of the pursuit. We're pretty much always taught that the end goal, the status, the wealth, the big achievement is the ultimate prize. But the reality? The profound joy and the real, lasting transformation live entirely inside the pursuit itself.
To really wrap our heads around why this matters, we have to look at a concept called anti-fragility. Think about it like this. Unlike fragile things that just shatter under pressure, or even resilient things that just resist a shock and stay exactly the same, human beings are actually anti-fragile. We are literally built as systems that get sharper and stronger when we're faced with difficult stressors. Without those stressors, well, we don't just stay the same, we actually start to degrade.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the illusion of comfort, answering the call, battling your internal demons, forging earned self-esteem, and finally, the ultimate transformation. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the illusion of comfort. I want you to think about this absolutely staggering number for a second, 99.996%. For that exact percentage of human history, our ancestors lived in a state of pretty much constant discomfort. They had to battle the elements, navigate incredibly volatile environments, and literally fight for their basic survival every single day. Our entire neurobiology was engineered and fine-tuned in that exact crucible of challenge.
But then, look at where we are right now. Because we are so biologically hardwired for a challenging world, our modern transition into this comfort crisis, a world of perfect climate control, instant gratification, and just total ease, it actually backfires on us. It causes our unstressed biological systems to just atrophy. It leaves us feeling unfulfilled, super anxious, and kind of stuck running on this hedonic treadmill of hollow achievements. Basically, we're totally safe, but we are deeply unsatisfied.
So how do we break out of that? That brings us to Section 2, answering the call.
The ultimate antidote to all this modern stagnation is actually captured perfectly in Joseph Campbell's monomyth, which you probably know as the hero's journey. It's this universal narrative framework that pops up in myths all across human history. But here's the crazy part. Modern researchers now believe this is way more than just a good story. It actually maps out the exact neurobiological architecture required for human evolution and personal mastery.
By volunteering to take this three-step journey, we actively trigger our own growth. It starts with departure, meaning you step completely out of your familiar comfort zone. Second is initiation. This is where you battle through the messy middle, confronting trials and really allowing your fragile old self to kind of die off. And third is the return, where you reintegrate with a hard-won gift. By voluntarily choosing this path, you're literally signaling to your brain to adapt and evolve, instead of just surviving in stagnation.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, battling your internal demons.
Now, the dragons you face on this path, they aren't literal fire-breathing monsters, obviously. They are deeply ingrained psychological and emotional barriers. We're talking about things like the constant nagging need for external validation, the genuinely terrifying fear of failure, the totally natural biological urge to just conserve energy and quit, and man, the agonizing boredom of daily practice. These are the powerful forces trying to keep you safely locked inside your comfort zone. But overcoming these exact internal demons is exactly how we build a stronger, much more resilient sense of self. There's this fantastic observation from the world of elite athletics that I just love. It says that at some point, winning just comes down to who can handle the total boredom of training every single day. Mastering your demons really often just means surviving the unglamorous, quiet repetition of showing up. Because, hey, it's super easy to be motivated at the starting line, but true transformation, that happens when the initial excitement fades away and you still put in the work, day after day.
So the real secret here is that you have to design your daily dragons using what's called the Goldilocks rule. See, the human brain absolutely loves a challenge, but only if it's in this optimal zone of manageable difficulty. Think about it. If you play tennis against a toddler, you're going to be bored out of your mind. If you play against Serena Williams, you're probably going to just quit. You have to pick challenges that are just hard enough to force your focus and prompt your brain to adapt without being so overwhelming that you abandon the quest entirely.
All right, moving on to Section 4, forging earned self-esteem. There is a massive fundamental difference between being an exhausted performer and being a true hero. The performer relies almost entirely on performance-based self-esteem. They're constantly chasing that fleeting external applause, and any failure completely destroys their sense of personal worth. But the hero cultivates earned self-esteem. This is built from the inside out. It's rooted in mastering the process, meaning failure isn't a threat to who you are at all. It's just a really crucial learning signal.
So how do we actually build that? Well, it all comes down to self-discipline. Self-discipline is the bridge between your good intentions and your actual actions. By consistently following through on the promises you make to yourself, you are literally proving your own worth to your nervous system. You end up building this completely unbreakable foundation of self-trust, which permanently replaces that frantic need for outside validation. I really want this next point to sink in. The weight doesn't get lighter, your back gets stronger. The burdens of life are not going to magically vanish just because you've decided to step onto a path of personal growth. The weight usually stays exactly the same. But because of your discipline and your persistent, voluntary struggle, you cultivate the inner strength necessary to actually carry it. You transform into someone capable of bearing the load.
And that brings us right to our final stop, Section 5, the ultimate transformation. When you finally hit the return phase of the journey, the hero brings back what mythology calls the boon. Now, this isn't a shiny trophy, and it's not a giant pile of wealth. It's a transformed self. You return to the real world equipped with this deep emotional autonomy and the moral courage to actually serve your community. You can lift others up now, simply because you've already survived the fire yourself.
You know those moments in your life that felt like an absolute total breakdown? Psychologists actually have a term for that: positive disintegration. It is the necessary shattering of your old limitations. The struggle you went through wasn't a sign that you failed. It was the vital, absolutely required breakdown of the outmoded version of you, clearing the way so a more capable, highly developed, authentic you could finally emerge.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one big, provocative question to chew on. What is the situation asking you to become? Next time you're in the thick of it, instead of asking why life is so hard or desperately looking for the fastest shortcut back to comfort, ask yourself what hero this specific struggle is calling you to evolve into. Embrace the discomfort, answer the call, and go earn your transformation.